Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authenticity. I'm Anna Toothman, and my guest today, the beautiful Theresa LePre Rivera. I am honored to have you back on my show. I was trying to remember this morning how many months since you were on last time. Do you remember?
I would say 6 months, maybe.
Perfect.
Say 6 months in that time frame. Give a little, take a little.
And I shared with you, Theresa, that episode was the most shared out episode that I've done to date, even to date now.
Wow, that's cool. So we got to think of.
Yeah. And that's why I did my my little clip promo video, and I have it up as a pinned post because it happened to be most favorite.
Excuse me. I'm getting over that really knocked me down for the weekend. I apologize. Cough comes and goes. So please bear with me if I start coughing. I apologize.
Oh, you're quite all right. It's called authenticity.
Yes,
It's
it is.
real life. I find that when you get close to your mic at times, we lose the sound.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can.
We'll keep the sound. We'll keep the camera positioned like this. Actually,
the last time I had you on, you and I were connecting about what I loved about you, and that was that you're authentic to your truth.
Yes.
And you've continued that truth, and I've tapped into some of your updates, your video blogs, and one of the things as I wanted to talk about today, and we don't have to talk about that. I'll let you decide because you're my guest, what you want to share, and you want the world to hear what Theresa has to say.
Mm-hmm.
But one of your shows, you talked about having conversations that people wanted to hear or talk about that maybe perhaps we weren't talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted you to elaborate on my show so that the listeners who maybe weren't privy to your posts, and they will be now because they're going to go to your page and find it. What conversations should we be having, Theresa?
One of the conversations should be about healing, the process that we go through. All in all, we talk about the healing process, but we never speak about the side that is angry, the side that makes us frustrated. And we never speak about why, after people heal, they put a wall around themselves. And I think we should get into those conversations. I also think we should get into conversations about rebuilding and taking the approach of that we don't know everything, but we are beings that began to trust a process. And the biggest challenge is the fear that's related to the process because we go through a lot. For instance, I will share, I have gained a lot of wisdom. However, I have not forgotten the beginning point of where it began and that the road isn't so easy at the beginning. And we question a lot. And I think what's happening in this society is that there is a connection that is lost with source, with God, with creator. And we do not want to admit that there is a process of how we get there. Because the majority is always speaking about the light, and the light is great. It is great because once the light gets into your system and the electric magnetic frequency goes off, you begin to understand the purpose of your soul. But you have to have these conversations. Another example is the abuses that people face and what they've come out of, or being able to speak about the things we want to change. And although some of them are not what people want to hear, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're negative. They're negative in the fact that the world has to go through it and people pick and choose this. But for us, we could use it as a positive. Look, this is what we're walking away from. So these are things that I feel we should speak about. But one of the biggest problems is that we don't listen, want to be heard, but our listen is off. So I want to bring up these discussions and I want to say, hey, we're human, but we trust in this divine process because we're learning more and more each day. We're evolving, and some of the biggest lessons come from our own inner circles and our families. But as we keep pushing forward, we are able to speak about these things with wisdom instead of through ego. And a lot of people can't face that because when you are speaking open and honestly, they believe it's an attack. I don't. Yes, I do believe that we have to weigh our words. And sometimes we all get a little hot-headed. But I think that one of well, for me, I know from my own self, why I step away from a lot of things is because I don't want to be in drama. I want to get to the core of things. And that's one of the reasons, several put together, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. And then that could be your unique puzzle piece.
Exactly.
We had spoke about on our last conversation that each individual has a unique expression and are a big part of the puzzle piece. And perhaps, Theresa, that is your role. Yeah, to bring this awareness and these conversations to the round table.
Yes, I believe that's one of my roles. And I also am a person who learns from other people, and I respect their roles. I respect genuineness. I don't respect disgenuine people. And the reason why I don't, because there's many people who lead other people astray knowingly. And I feel those conversations also have to be brought up because we are a community, a human community that is striving for a better way on this planet, who we are coming together from all facets of life. And even if things are bumpy, you're genuine, you could always find a solution. And it's always better to understand that you have a unique. So I don't shy my role and I don't back down from it because I'm not disrespectful to anyone. Yes, I'm straightforward, but I live and let live. I think one of the biggest downfalls in humanity is that the ego catches people, and as it catches people, it ensnarls them, it ensnares them rather. It ensnares them because then they can't differentiate. And this evolution process is very unique to an individual. But there's also a commonality because we are striving for the same thing, a new planet where we could cultivate the grounds, stepping away from elite positions that control the population, not being in fear, saying, hey, if we don't do it together, how's it going to get done? And yes, love will win, but love without an action does not win in my personal journey, because I think that people shy away from true love as well, because true love is really something not ordinary. It's not like the Cinderella story that's presented. There's bumps in that story. And, I think if you don't learn through the process, then you're just always looking for that Cinderella story because you want to live happily ever after. But where? With who? If you don't.
It's a beautiful reflection of the Cinderella story. Indeed, the Cinderella story is about you, and I've learned that I am my own twin, that the divine union is within me, and when that is whole and complete, there's nothing outside of me that I'm searching for.
Exactly. What begins to happen when you meet a counterpart, you complement
Right.
trait. And I think that because people are lonely or they're searching for that so deeply, they need a counterpart to validate themselves. And I have no judgment on that because, like you have stated, everybody is unique. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm on this journey that when people complement one another, they could move forward because there's an understanding, because healthy boundaries are already set. If I look back to my early years in relationships, we're young, we're ignorant, things happen. We don't, or we weren't taught the full value of ourselves. We live in that kind of generation that, you know, they weren't awake as we are. And things get lost in transit. But that's why I say on a true transformation, on a true journey, you do have wisdom as the chapters close. And you don't have to be like the crowd to be genuine, because we're talking heart and soul. Because if you're genuine and you have a moral compass, you're always going to weigh out. Even in disagreements, you're always going to weigh out. And I think that people don't like to speak that way because everybody has this gift that they want to outshine someone else. We all have the gift. It's how we charge that gift. You know what I mean? It's like, because the source is the source that powers both. And how you mold that is according to your own individual. You could choose what you want. And I think that people, shy away from that, because if I say to some people, well, people choose to be evil, they're like, how could you say that? You're negative. No, not negative. That's just how it is if you know about energy. We chose to be light bearers. Therefore, even in that negativity that we're surrounded by, the fear is that we change that because we're so bright. And it's the truth, because you do change it. Because now, if you think back to your own fears or your own demons or anything that might have made you uncomfortable, that was darkness, right? And you transmuted it. Didn't you transmute it in yourself?
Yeah, of
So
course.
we do stick together and stop all this nonsense, right? And just say, hey, let's learn about the energy and the light and how we could do a lot. And I think more and more people are becoming conscious of that. And I look for the day that we could all turn around and say, enough is enough, let's surrender and let's work together within humanity to find the things that are our original origins, and even the things in our origins that kept us in a slave-like mentality. Let's accept that it happened, but let's understand that we have the power within our DNA to change it. And that's where the fear comes in. And, I encourage people, anything you hear that might be aligned with you, please go research it. Don't take it from as absolute truth because it came from me or someone else that you respect. Respect the fact that we are going to speak of things and we're not going to lead you astray. But before you make a final decision, search your own heart. Go and research a little bit. Don't be so pig-headed. Don't always think you know everything, and really what's happening is we know nothing, you know? So please go and dig deep within, because this world is at a chaotic state right now. And I don't want to see our people perish when we could rise up. And I'm all about the love and I'm all about the light, but I'm also I'm also a unique individual where when I speak about these things, I don't take it personal. I take it as discussion and for us to ponder and think about it, because if you change yourself, you're changing a part of the world.
Right. It really comes back to, I was thinking about this morning when I woke up, and I was going to do some writing about unity consciousness. And I was speaking to myself about it, what unity meant to me, what the law of unity means, or the law of one. I think about some of the things that have occurred through my soul's journey till now in this incarnation, and the mirrors that were present until they weren't needed anymore. When we don't have the need for outside validation, when we heal those parts of ourselves, the mirrors change. And yes, not everyone is aware, but they are becoming aware that it's within their own power.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I'm in full agreement with you. I believe that it's up to us to take back the earth. And yes, there's many forces that are working simultaneously to distract humanity. And I agree. There's so many agendas that people are lost and they don't know what to believe. But I know one thing, and this is a pet peeve of mine, because it always comes back to, well, Theresa, and when I'm having discussions and I'm going to go on air, and a few colleagues of mine might be throwing things back and forth. But Theresa, it always comes back to this. There are so many things happening and people don't understand and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, get that. But if we don't take one action, we will be so distracted about the actions that we don't understand or what's going on, we'll never get to base one. And I believe that we have to take an action. We have to take an action, because if we don't, there are many agendas going into place that we will also be affected by. And we came out of this tunnel vision, right? And this tunnel vision is not something that I think anybody should be in, because it's something that keeps you blind. You can't see all around. So you can never make a choice. That's why people are going buck wild, because there's such a variety of everything out there that they don't know how to pick and choose what's good for them. And then the energy gets misused. Because in universal law, there is a universal law, there is a synchronicity. And we can't just go making it up as we go. It's something that
I'm trying to see the comments. Apologize. Go ahead.
fine. That's why, there are things that are going on that people don't want to face. I'm pro-humanity. I'm pro-humanity. I'm pro-working together. I'm also pro-healthy boundaries. And I had to learn that, because people do take advantage. That's another thing we don't want to talk about and discuss. You know how people wrote me about certain things to bring up conversations about things that happen in our own community, and this is throughout the years, that they were allowing to I don't want to say allowing, what's a better way of saying that they were keeping quiet about because they didn't have a voice, but neither did they stick up for themselves or the people around them. And even after I brought up the topics, I could generalize a lot of topics, right? And it's just a general conversation. They still, they still fell into that trap because had shame and they had guilt. And, I said, maybe there's another way to go. Maybe we start discussing about healthy boundaries and really like acknowledging that that's a process to have healthy boundaries because you're so used, like if you're a people pleaser, you don't want to say no, or if you you sacrifice yourself for your family and then you don't want to do it no more. That's another, situation. So I that requires healthy boundaries. And I said to myself, well, we'll have to go another route because I pondered too a lot and we'll have to discuss healthy boundaries and how difficult that is. But once we put the boundaries up and we look in the mirror, the reflection changed. You're absolutely right. And then we could test and we could share wisdom. And we don't have to share that wisdom in discord. We share it lovingly. And we're saying, hey, I've been there. And this doesn't mean you're any less spiritual. What it means is in your journey, you are experiencing the things that will either keep you evolving towards the next level or keep you stagnated until you figure it out. And I don't think we like to have those conversations because everybody has the cure. But what really is the cure if you don't go inside? You know, you know,
No, going inwards. I was thinking about all the things you just said, and I've spoken about this before. Fear. We're fear. Oh, this person's going to leave me. Oh, if I lose this job, or I'm in fear that he's going to leave me, or I can't do this alone, or am I worthy? Am I not worthy? Or have I done enough service work? Am I spiritual enough? These conversations everyone has had.
to themselves.
Everyone. To themselves, yes, maybe not out loud. Fear is one of those things that we overcome when we do this work.
And it's the most difficult.
It
because
is.
We deep-rooted fear of something.
Mm-hmm.
Even have a deep-rooted fear of something. I knew somebody that wasn't afraid of anything except death. And when sick, they could have made a full recovery between the fear and some things that went wrong. They died because the fear of dying is what really killed them. Because that, and if I express that as a family member, people are like, oh no, but yeah, it was the truth because you have to look beyond the veil. Just like some people have, like, I had to come over my own fear of, because I did a lot and do a lot of work with the children. And I'm surrounded by children, right? My family, nieces, my nice grandchildren, how that goes. My biggest fear is because I saw what I saw, keeping people away from your family. I had to overcome that and teach in a different way and to not only the people I love, but for myself. Because you can't save everything, but you could trust that the wisdom that you share is remembered. And that fear is what they want because they want to keep you in a capsule. And I believe that each of us has a fear that's deep rooted, even if it's part of something that we make up because we have a fear of losing those that we love. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
I understand it as emotional attachments
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
we have to move through collectively and individually. When we have an emotional attachment to something, it's like codependency or back to fear.
It was back to fear, and I when I went deeply, I realized it was also an issue that I had to an emotion, an issue, because it was an issue that I didn't even realize. And it brought up the emotion of when I was younger, because I was about 14 years old, and a friend and I, we were in the local park, and nice neighborhood, suburban neighborhood. Everybody knew each other, and we were walking and going home. And I remember in in a flash, it just happened. This guy was walking. He grabbed me, and he was trying to get me down. And I had a two. Remember the two tops?
Yeah.
I had a two top on, and I had a little sweat jacket. And he ripped the two top, but I and he was holding on, but I while he was ripping the two top, I got out of my jacket because he was like holding like the sweat jacket. It was like, and I was able to get away. And then people came, but that's a fear because you're violated. And luckily, I got away. But I think that that was an emotional, fear that I had buried, and I had to look at that, and then I
Yeah.
had come to terms, and say, okay, this is the fear, and this is why I feel this way, and now you have to let that go, and I think we bury some things, we bury things, and then we don't even realize that that emotional attachment carries over. So those things I haven't thought about that in years until recently.
Yeah.
Was going through my own I'm feeling it like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I believe that, fear is crippling. And the more we trust the process, the more we let go of fear.
Yeah.
And that was something that I had to put to bed. So, I'm not ashamed to talk about the things that happened to me because this is an authentic journey, and
Mhm.
it's away from the sacredness or the heart or how I am. I think a lot of people, you know, they 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 want truth, but then when you become the catalyst, it's a little hard to swallow, and like they don't know how to take you. But really, if you just listen, you would see that people like everybody else, we're all going through this process, and some are doing better than others. Some don't want the process, it's presented in front of them. But we really have to let all that go and trust that the divine has awakened us for a reason, and we should just reflect. So I,
Yeah.
I let go of a lot of things. I don't live in the future, and I don't live in the past anymore. And that's also something that, one day I'll speak about that, because if you overthink, you could be all over the place. And not overthinking, sometimes you question, is something wrong with me? Because now I'm not overthinking. And, I have a ton of things going on, and I'm trusting in the process. And here I am. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is falling away. That's falling away. This is cut in half. And, before I'd be freaking out trying to control everything. And now I'm like, okay, and it's very interesting to be able to feel it and to speak about it, and not, say, hey, I don't have everything all together, but I'm spiritual as all, hell. That
Sure.
type of, excuse me, that type of expression. But it'll be okay. And that's part of and that's part of letting go of fear. And trust me, people will be like, oh, what is she, crazy? No, I'm not crazy. It's really the truth. You got to experience it though first. And there's a lot of people out there that are fantastic. They're overcoming childhood, you know,
Mm.
and
Trauma.
marriages that were in existence for years, but they're really, people stay married sometimes for many different reasons, you know. So, it's all according, and, they're finally letting go of that. It doesn't matter if they're 40, 50, or 60, they're breaking out of these cycles, and you're courageous if you do that. Anybody who breaks out of a cycle, whatever that cycle is, because you want to live. And, I'm very big on taking care of myself, right? So I'm into like anti-aging, shutting off the aging process, understanding like, okay, what does the human body, how much can we take? And the human body could take a lot. So, I'm not a person that's vaccinated, and I don't condemn anybody that is vaccinated. That's their business. But I want to say this, for everybody who's, fearful of any type of disease that's going to go around, because there are, please take care of your vessel. Lots of fluids, vitamins, C, and, because I had something this weekend and it took me down. And if I have to be honest about it, I haven't been sick in years. I was sick before COVID hit. And I don't know if you remember, they couldn't detect if you had the flu or not. And we were, right? This thing was similar because I was down. And, this happened Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm much better today, but I'm still weak. So after
Was it during the equinox, or was it for this eclipse core dark? It's all kind of running together.
I track of time, it started on the yesterday was the 24th, correct? 23rd. It started on
24.
the 22nd. I was down. I lost track of time. I knew that you and I had this interview, and I was like, I hope I don't have to cancel, but I trust in the process and my body. And I flooded myself with vitamin C and, having plenty of rest. But that's a fear that human beings have, that if you get sick, that, we're doomed. Please, it's not that. Please take care of yourself. If you build up the immunity, you know, you'll be okay. And people are fearful. And that's another thing. Please learn about your body, because if you learn about your body, you don't have to be so fearful. You know, I hear a lot of people, and I observe a lot of people who they believe in the healing, right? But they're sick every other week. And I think that that's something that we should look into more, because if you really begin to understand the healing, it's amazing. We can heal ourselves. Now, I'm not going to say I didn't feel, I was like, oh, like I was down,
Yeah.
but I could attest that within 3 days of doing self-care and remedies, that, yeah, I'm better. So, these are all fears we have. Then we have the fear of the financial collapse. How many financial collapses have there been throughout history? We'll survive it. You know what I mean? We'll survive it. Our biggest fear is the control that the elites want to take over. But if we allow them, they will, because in many parts of the world, they have taken over. And there's a lot of destruction. And we don't want to say bring up the conversations, because we have been taught that God takes sides. I don't believe in that. Every religion is right in their warfare, in their territorial fight. That's not how my God works. My God builds bridges. Humanity works together. And, I'm going to keep preaching the things that come through the divine channel. And then wherever it goes, because there's many people who speak that I learned from and I respect. And I'm like, and I think that that's one of the things we lack, is a mutuality of respect for one another. Everybody wants to be respected without giving respect. It don't work like that. There has to be like common ground. And, I'm hoping that I continue to change as the world continues to change, that I really have what it takes, because it's a test. And sometimes we do fold and then we get right back up.
We do. We get right back up, sister. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you're feeling better and we're able to come on today. You hit so many points in the last few minutes. I wanted to go back to what happened to you when you were 14. And so
Mhm.
many of us, not just young women or young ladies, just kids, boys, the core wounds that we carry into adulthood come from those moments.
Yeah.
And it
It's-
shapes our realities.
Yes, absolutely.
And we've spent the last decade, many of us, undoing that.
Absolutely.
So that you, like you said, when you're surrounded by children and you work a lot with children, you were able to see where that fear came from and where it was planted, that seed.
Mhm.
And then you were able to alchemize it.
Yes.
And many people are doing that now. They're seeing those core wounds
Yes.
and what they were for.
Hmm.
I've been through some horrific moments and experiences as a young child, or a young teen myself.
Hmm.
I was roofied when I was 16.
What does roofied mean?
I was somebody put something in my drink,
Ah, okay. Okay. So
and
you,
I didn't remember anything from just taking. I had to look at the program a few years ago, what occurred, and one of them was I didn't see myself as a victim at that moment, or that it was his fault. It was my fault because I was 16 and I was in a bar and I wasn't old enough to drink. And I would put myself in this situation.
right, you reversed the roles. How old was he, by the way?
He must have been in his mid 20s.
Okay.
And so it was all part of the programming that we were remembering, that
Yes.
these were put in place to keep us unworthy or to self blame, to have self shame around these situations. You go through all these emotions, and then you bring this fear into your adulthood, and then it shaped the way that we perhaps viewed the masculine and the men in our lives, or
Yes.
the way I remember I had this conversation with a good friend, and I thought unconsciously, but when I was drunk enough in my early 20s, that perhaps they liked me better unconscious, men, because I didn't relate it to that moment. I hadn't connected the dots yet.
Sometimes it takes a long time to connect the dots because we block out and we
Mhm.
push it away, or we push it deep inside. And then cellular eruptions happen. And when I say eruptions, it's because one day they do explode because we hold it inside and they become like a cancer. And then they erode and they simultaneously go through us. And if we don't emotionally connect the dots and understand that that wasn't our fault, we shouldn't carry the guilt or the shame of it because we were 16. And 16-year olds, we lived in an era where we did this. It was not uncommon in our time frame to go to a bar at 16, especially if you had a lot of age group, who got in 16 to like 21 and things like that.
Mhm.
You weren't ID'd the way you are. It was different. It was very different. And I think people should understand that as well. So it's not like, oh, you were in a bar and you shouldn't be in a bar. This was how we This was just the way it was when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And I believe that now that we have the wisdom, right? And we speak about it, it will help the younger generation. Because if I remember correctly, we were doing what we wanted, and we didn't have that wisdom that said, you, you're going to do this, you should really think about it. We were doing a lot of things behind our parents' backs, and that's just the truth. And then you couldn't talk about it to your parents because you'd be scolded, because what were you doing? And then if you did find it out, that's another story in itself. So I believe that although we have these fears, and there are some scars related to it, those scars that they fade away, but they are there. They are reminders, right? And we could speak about it and be open and honest about it and say, look, I understand. But now we have the opportunity to discuss it. And even though we are healing ourselves as we are discussing it, as we are in communication, we are also healing others. And there might be someone who's listening who might be just on the tip of that age to say, hey, I want to be cool, and I'll do this and my friends will like me better, male or female. We're here to tell you that that's not the way it goes. And we want to encourage you, and we want to educate you. And of course, free will is free will, but someone cares about you, because we didn't know anything either. And I think that that is a big part of overcoming. Yeah. And what
I do have to say, this far in my journey and growth and inner work, I also reflect on the masculine
Mm.
who did this and his
Yes.
programming, right? And the programming that was around in those days. I'm 52 years old.
Mhm.
So the programming that was occurring for this young man who was, I may have had 2 sips of a Coors Light that whole time.
But it was enough to do the damage.
Yeah, it was whatever I had, ingested. The fact that, that was, we are unraveling all of that programming, is what I'm trying to say. All of the it's okay to smack a woman on the ass when they walk by in those days. It was okay to
Oh,
to
yeah,
to
absolutely.
hooler and holler at us. Remember,
Yes, I
these
do.
things were accepted, and some mothers looked the other way if dad was behaving inappropriately. Some mothers,
Did look the way many did, because of the shame that it would bring around the family.
right.
Yeah. And it's more
So,
common.
and that's what I'm saying. We have come such a way, and we have collapsed so many realities. We've collapsed multiple things that we've raised the vibration of this planet, that they're open to hearing us now.
Yes, and that's brilliant. More people are open to hearing, because more people are understanding that there is no way out in the current system. The current system, you're born, you're bred, you work, and you die. There's no life really, even though people pretend that they have a life. Most people are just sustaining, that they forget what life is. And if you ask them, well, what will make you happy? It's always a materialistic thing. They'll never say, sometimes I'm just happy sitting in nature and just quiet in my mind, because they're detached from that. And now, the more that people are introducing our ways, people are like, let me try that, because this way is not helping me. And as we collapse more and more, we'll see a lot of things. We'll see our soul tribe coming together. We'll
Yeah.
see that don't want us to excel, become harder. But if we remain calm, and if we stand to our authentic selves, even though there might be many of them, the handful of us will overpower. We just now have to say, hey, we need each other because we don't. And I think that when we could do that and say, I'm sorry, you know, maybe I haven't acted appropriately all the time, but all we have is our soul tribe, and let's change it together. We might actually come back from this inner turmoil that is bestowed upon humanity. And I look forward to be one of the catalysts that is steadfast, because I do love humanity. I love my people. You know, when people say I'm from this star seed and I'm this, that's great. We all have higher, um, higher, we all have alien DNA in us from the seeds that were placed on humanity, but we're also Earth. We are Earthlings that have this divinity that our alien ancestors do not want us to discover. And I am for the Earthling because I know how divine that we are. And I say, no matter what star seed you come from, you are living in an earthly body. And even if you're pretending, you still want an earthly body. Let's come together and let, you know, really what the earthling can take. That's how I rock and roll, because I do love my people. I don't want to see my people controlled or in a death chamber. You know, these slow deaths by what the elites are posing on humanity. You have, you know, every time someone, you kill an insect, have food that's tainted, you have, pesticides all around. I don't want that earth. I want an earth that, we were meant to live on, to enjoy and to harvest. I'm rocking and rolling, and I want it with my people because we can lead ourselves.
Yeah, and I mean, we have the power. I mean, we as the consumer, as the purchaser, when you make a purchase, you decide what you're buying.
Exactly.
You get to decide who you're supporting. We always talk about the micro and the macro, and I always bring it into the conversation is start local. What is around you here? Where is it? What's going on in Theresa City? What's going on in Anna here? In Boise, Idaho, I look for local markets, people who are growing their own gardens.
Absolutely.
We work in here. A lot of us, I'm not saying it's wrong to want to support out here, other countries, other cities, and our brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about that.
No,
I'm saying we start here. Like start with yourself before you start teaching others.
absolutely.
Start with your local city before you branch out. We work as a community.
I am local with what I buy. Very rarely, okay, there are some things we have no choice. We have to, because they're not available anymore locally, right? Mm-hmm. However, that's very far and in between. I'm a local girl. I will pay the extra money to not only support the local businesses, but to make sure that I have a better grade of food. People say, oh, you do that, you don't know. I says, well, let's not get paranoid. We can't get paranoid about everything. I mean, there are locally grown foods that don't have pesticides. If you're supporting your local farmers, that's what's happening. That's why you're at the local market, things like that. So it's very interesting. I'm big for that. Sometimes
that's what I meant about our purchasing power. I try to eat mostly organic, just so that I'm eating clean.
Yes.
And things you are more available organically at stores even commercial stores, large food chains, because our power of what we're purchasing is dictating that. More and more of us are saying, we don't want a GMO. I don't want pesticides. I don't want that. I'd rather pay more. And we'll see the costs come down when more of us focus on self-healing, clean eating, and creating our own. We used to eat what was in season. We used to eat and do things for ourselves. And somehow through influences around us, we've moved away from this way of living. But we can do it. We can do it. It doesn't, we really can. Yes, you make your own community gardens, make your own garden, start with an herb, start with a tomato plant. I don't care what it is. This is the year 2024 to be the change. It is one thing to talk about it. We can talk all day, all night about the things we want to see. But yet we will go to a big food chain market and buy something that is what we find in our minds that is very inexpensive to go to this place, but yet we have a bumper sticker that says otherwise. It is time to walk the talk.
I find that a lot of people are trapped like that. First of all, this generation does not know how to cook. They are eating out constantly, and they are, well, I shouldn't say all, but the majority of a younger generation, people that are in their 30s that have small kids, I can't tell you how the McDonald's line is always crowded. Subway, all these things that, either you don't have time or it's just an easier way to get through a night, like you don't want to cook. And no one like really knows the nutritional value of the foods. And a lot of people who are cooking, they are going to the cheaper stuff because the food is so expensive. So, again, you're right. If you come together and if you show where your money is being spent and what you want, they will have no choice but to negotiate. And because that's really what's going to happen. You're going to have to it is negotiation. When people raise up and when people, rise up, that is called negotiation, because now you are putting a stop to the things that you no longer want to be part of. It no longer serves you, because like I eat organic, but I have to tell you, like an organic steak in New York, because it's very high priced, is much more expensive than it is in Idaho. And, if you're a family of 4, to get 4 steaks is a lot of money.
It's my recommendation then, and is get with your local community and buy a cow.
Absolutely. There are
share the profits of the meat.
There's a lot of people who do that, but in the inner city, they're not going to do that. I know my neighbor does that come Ramadan. They they buy a half a cow, they butcher, and it feeds all their family throughout the year. Their mother, their father, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins, they get together, and that is a way to go. But a lot of people don't want to do that. So, you got to pick and choose what you really want to do. And I think that that's a wonderful idea, because people say don't eat meat. Well, I don't tell people what to eat, because, that's not my thing. I don't get involved with that. If you're going to eat, I know vegans that are 300 pounds. And I know, people who eat meat that can't even, stand up. It's a balance of what works for you. You know what I mean? So sure. I never tell people what to eat. I just say, whatever you're eating, eat healthier than what you have been eating, because there is food that is being processed and, manipulated. And what you put into your body does make a difference.
I mean, we could go on this show, really, and talk about all the things that we've talked about for over 10 years. And I'm not saying that inflation isn't hurting and affecting everyone on this planet, because it is. And I'm sitting here in this chair saying, let's support local, but spend a little bit more money when people are struggling. I get that. We are beating that lack mentality. We are moving away from these things, even if it's just one person in your neighborhood going around, walking around saying, hey, let's all throw in $10 or
Yes.
$20 for some beef to share with the community in our neighborhood. Or let's have this, who has the biggest plot of land, and let's plant some food. I don't know, but this
I
is what I
I,
know,
I
is that I get to choose where I spend my money.
last year I started to plant a variety of tomatoes. And I planted potatoes. I planted corn, but the beaver got the corn. They love the corn. The woodchuck, I'm sorry, they love the corn. So
Mhm.
they then I planted radishes, and I had my herbs, and I had peppers. Those tomato, if you know how to like put something together, and you could use four ingredients that are higher quality, but take those tomatoes, you saute them in olive oil, fresh basil, right? If you like peppers, you saute them in as well. Little garlic, little spaghetti. There's a
Yeah.
variety. You toss it, and little Romano cheese. That's a beautiful meal, and it's healthy. And I think that if we learn to cook like that as well, you could then say, okay, we're locally getting this together. We now can put the $20 in for the half a cow, and that
Yeah.
really, yeah. And this year I'll do more, because each year I learn. Okay, I could do this better. Okay, but the tomatoes, I have not bought tomatoes since the season went out, because I was like, I'm not paying $4.99 a pound for tomatoes, organic tomatoes, when the season is coming around, and I could have tomatoes like from well, at the end of May to like September. You know what I mean? And
Well,
then,
they have these things now where they can grow, is it hydroponics?
yeah,
They do, there's all kinds of ways now with technology to grow organically.
yes, there is. So, I'm looking forward to this year, because I love that stuff. I love to grow now. I want to do more and more, but it does. It is so healthy. And like, you pick a tomato, you make a tomato salad. You roast some peppers, and if you like eggs, you do peppers and eggs. It's, and these are healthy meals. You make a big salad. I did lettuce. Now I'll do more this year. And it's, everything tastes different as well, you know,
Yeah.
because it's coming out of your ground. And even though you get great product when you support locally, when you pull it out of your own earth, there's just something that really, like, delicious.
It feels amazing.
Does.
We've come to the end of our show. Before we end the show, Theresa, I want to give you a few minutes to talk to Team Humanity.
Team humanity. Humanity has to come together, and we have to say something. It's time to take a unique gift and put action into our words. You do that by changing yourself, and then you meet other like minded people. Don't be so hard on yourself, because this road is twisting. And as we evolve, and we have to do the internal work, because as we get better, then we're always finding something else, right? And we keep going on and on. We realize that the process of life are just the things that are up to us to find the solutions. Because if we don't, then how will we ever exceed? Go for it. Don't be afraid to dig inside. I know know that fear can be debilitating, but I tell you, if you allow to happen and you begin to slowly surrender, you'll change. And everything else falls into place somehow.
I would like to let everybody know that you can find Theresa on TikTok, you can find her on Instagram, and you can find her on Facebook. Theresa, I feel like with your Italian background that I should be looking for a pop-up video of how to make that delicious meal that you described.
Very simple, 4 simple ingredients. You can't mess it up. You just saute
Yeah, I want to
or
see a video.
maybe
A
one
little
day.
how-to video, and I will you can have a little class and we could all participate, and I could even be the Zoom person because I can have up to 100 people on my Zoom, and
Great.
we could all pay to see. I want to get creative on how we're moving forward together in co-creation. So however I can be a part, you let me know. I love you. I thank you.
Thank you too. Nice getting together again.
Have a special rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, and one more thing, everybody. I will not be going live for Easter or for eclipse on the 8th. I will resume the following week. Everybody have a special 2 weeks. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.